The Winnipeg Jets lost their best player, Connor Hellebuyck, for 4 to 6 weeks. Will they be able to overcome that loss, and how will they get it done? Harrison Lee of Locked On Winnipeg Jets joined us to discuss that and more next on today's Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com, and you'll win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, Harrison Lee, and not easy times right now in the Peg. Your best player, Connor Hellebuyck, the guy who got you to the President's Trophy more than anybody else last year, out 4 to 6 weeks, had to have arthroscopic surgery. How do the Jets even tread water while Connor Hellebuyck is sidelined?
Good question. Trying to answer that one myself. I'll say up front, I thought Comrie has been fine the first couple of games without Helly. He's solid, right? What's interesting is through the past couple of games against Carolina and tonight against Minnesota, the Jets 5v5 game looked really good. They played well. They just unfortunately scored 3 goals in 2 games, and that is not going to be enough. The goal scoring looks to be the biggest problem, and we kind of knew coming in from the summer that this might be an issue. None of the guys that the Jets really brought in over the summer are just finishers. Taves is probably the closest. Nyquist had a year with Nashville a couple seasons ago that looked great. Neither of them is really finding pay dirt all that often. Cole Koepke, not really a finisher. And of course, Pearson is, okay, but he's at the stage of his career a fourth liner. So, I just look at this whole situation and I ask myself, with how narrow the margins are, any single loss could put you in a really bad spot. I don't recall a year recently where the standings compression has been this bad. If you lose a game or two, it could be you either in third in your division or in fourth in the wild card race. It's that close. So, for the Jets, I kind of am starting to wonder, how likely is it that they make the playoffs? I've thought about this. Hellebuck out for a month, man, that is just, but even if he was in that, I don't know how much of a difference it makes. If the Jets can't score, that's going to be a problem no matter who's saving. But, the Jets have now given up 2 straight shorthanded goals. The top line is kind of going cold right now and hasn't really been able to do enough. And so I'm just, I'm running out of answers for a team that didn't really give a lot to begin with.
Getting back to Comrie, you mentioned he's playing solidly, playing well. But do they have faith in his backup right now while Hellebuck is out?
Oh, yeah. Thomas Milic. I don't even know. Milic, his AHL and ECHL numbers are okay. Between him and DiVincentis, the other backup, not the other backup, the other top goalie prospect, I've generally leaned towards DiVincentis. I think he's got, some really athletic ability and looks to be a very modern keeper. Milic, I feel less comfortable with. He was an overager when he was drafted, and usually overage goalies have some funky things for reasons why they were passed off the first time. He's solid. I think he can probably play a couple of games, and he'll probably get maybe 3, 4, 5 games. I'm not really sure how this workload is going to be split because Comrie, doesn't usually play that many to begin with. So I don't know that they want to put him out there too much. Comrie is the trusted known commodity. He's going to have to get some rest somewhere, but I think Milic is probably going to get as few games as humanly possible.
other than Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, who else could step up and give you some more offense?
Uh, uh, this is the golden question, right? Cole Perfetti, I think, is the guy that a lot of folks have sort of gravitated towards. I really like Cole, and I think he's a great player. Right now, he's not with anyone that I think is going to be capable of moving the needle for him. He's like a great setup complementary player. He can kind of drive himself at times, but he's with like Nemesnikov and guys like that. I did see him against or playing with Lowry tonight against the Wild, which I thought was the right choice. It didn't really work offensively, and so they ended up getting split apart. And with Taves, like he's got good chemistry with Taves, but unfortunately, it still hasn't led to points. I mean, it's just one of those situations where they do a lot of the details plays well, and they do a lot of things right that you would expect to lead to points, and it just hasn't. So I don't know. I sort of run into this problem of trying to figure out how you squeeze more offense out of this team, because the one thing that they absolutely should do is split up the top line. And what is the one thing that the team refuses to do? Split up the top line. There's no other line combination out there that has played as many minutes as Winnipeg's top line has. It's actually insane to me that they keep doing this because it just makes everything so much harder. You shuffle the deck everywhere else to try and make some line combination that works, and it ends up with the same results. And it's like, maybe you should have a talk with your top stars and ask them why they're not willing to play apart from one another.
Do you think this team is willing to go out and add somebody to the roster who could, whether via trade or maybe somebody who's in the AHL right now, who could help add a little juice to this lineup?
Well, Pionk just went down, so there's a possibility that they do. I don't know. They're trying to shop Brad Lambert. They said they're going to be patient. They already needed a top scorer for this team. I think it's going to be situational, right? If there's a good player with term that pops up that answers some of their scoring issues, maybe. But I don't know, man. This does not feel like the season where, unless they have term, I'm willing to make a deal. If they're just doing trade deadline stuff, I'd prefer that they not. This doesn't feel like the team that's going to be the one to sink assets in for. I think they will try to do something. I think Chevy probably has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder after last deadline, bringing in Shen and Tanev as your best acquisitions for a President's Trophy team. Like, really, that was not the plan at all. And like those guys, they work hard, they try their best, but ultimately, this team needed playoff needle movers, and neither player could bring that level of quality to the team. So I think there is an impetus and pressure to do it this year. But, I look at the asset pool that they've got, and I'm not really sure how you make it happen, and if the Jets start slipping further and further over the course of this December, I do wonder if the calculus really does change. We don't really know what the impact of February is going to be on everyone's injuries and fatigue levels. The Jets will have a couple of Olympians. So, I mean, there's just so many unknowns that I'm not really feeling great about Winnipeg's ability to bring in talent and assess what they actually need correctly.
Give me a player who's been a pleasant surprise. We're talking about all these issues. Give me something optimistic here about the Jets so far this season.
Cole Koepke is fun. He smashes. He skates in a straight line like an RPG. A fire and forget missile. He's been solid. He just can't score to save his life. I've never seen somebody get so unlucky. One time he actually had an empty net and thought he would instead dangle around the lone defender that was back because he had started committing to it. And I'm like, brother, just one time, you've got the empty net. And it ended up not going in. But he does all the plays right. Like he's very smart. He's been great for the fourth line. So, hey, if you're going to sign a bunch of veterans, at least find one or two that can do a decent job. And I think he's delivered on what his fourth line promise was. So good for him.
All right, Harrison, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
You can join us, insane Jets fans, at Locked On Winnipeg Jets, LO_Winnipeg Jets on Twitter, and on our YouTube page, same place you find Locked On NHL. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Harrison. Today's game is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And hockey fans, use your knowledge of your favorite team and the game of hockey on FanDuel. Check out the latest odds today. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, place that first $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com to check it out today.